Communication, in my humble opinion, is the greatest tool we possess as humans. The ability to take an idea and place it into another person's mind is awe-inspiring if you really think about it. Coupled with the internet and its ability to take a message around the world in seconds, it can only get better. These are our conversations. Hope you enjoy. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Mikey T here. Welcome to UITC Groups. Listen, learn, and ask questions. And today we have Mr. Kevin Middleton with us. Kevin Middleton, how you doing, my brother?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming. For those of you who don't know, Kevin is an author, speaker, preacher, educator extraordinaire, just a really great person overall. Like,
too generous.
He does a lot. So, Mr. Middleton, let's get into it. What's your story? Where are you from? What do you do? What is your journey? A little excerpt of your journey.
I'm a born and raised native of Mount Vernon, New York, of course. Grew up here my entire life. Graduated from Nellie A. Thornton here in Mount Vernon as well. From Thornton, had no idea what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be. Had a pretty terrible GPA, 1.7 GPA as a matter of fact.
Somebody with a worse GPA than me.
Yeah, it was terrible. A lot of it from freshman year and fooling around and being a class clown. However, I was afforded the opportunity to get into a college opportunity program at Mercy that afforded the opportunity for students with low GPA and low socioeconomic income in the household to attend a four-year university for free, full ride. So I went to Mercy just by like pure grace, like just pure, like nothing on my pedigree, nothing on my resume made me eligible to be at Mercy College. But for someone to just say, hey, you did pretty terrible in your high school year, we're going to give you a chance to redeem yourself. So,
and that's a private college.
Private college.
That's a private college, right? Four-year private, and to get a full ride. I know people who are well into their careers still with Mercy loans.
Still with Mercy loans. And Mercy's not the cheapest private school. It's one of the more expensive ones. Got to Mercy, still had no idea of what I wanted to do. Made sure I, got my A's, got my B's. If I got B's, got A's and B's. Pretty much B plus average, more towards the A side. Worked one summer at this summer program called Freedom School, which was held primarily at Grace Baptist Church. Summer program that helps with literacy and teaching literacy to children of color in urban areas. It was there that I found my niche. It was there that something clicked in me. It snapped in me and said, I'm great with children. I love being with children. I inspire children. Not only that, I love to educate. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in terms of education, but I knew it was there and then that education was something that I needed to be involved in.
Nice. And so now you work at the Mount Vernon STEAM Academy. You work at your alma mater, college.
Yep.
So you're in essence, and I know you teach freshmen at both of those institutions.
Yes.
So I always say to you, one of the things that you have the ability to do is give somebody that fresh start that they gave you, which I find that very amazing. And
that's really interesting that you say that. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no.
But I didn't even connect that at all until you said it. So I think it's interesting how I said that it was in my freshman year that I messed up. Where I potentially, the trajectory of my future was dependent on the grades that I got in my freshman year of high school, which in turn didn't afford me the opportunity to get accepted into schools because of my GPA. But now I'm in this place where I'm sort of a model in both sectors and both spheres to sort of help change the trajectory of those children that may potentially end up in the same position. So I think that thank you for allowing me to see that.
No, and that's the thing. It's the craziest thing about life. Like sometimes you're just living your life and you don't see where all the connections are being made. Because when I think about you saying something like that, like your freshman year is where you really messed up in high school, and where most people like you got to do the best in your freshman year because that sets your trajectory. Even though you didn't do your best, that freshman year set you up in college, and then that freshman year in college kind of got you set on that same trajectory. And now you have a totally different story to tell your students because it's not the, oh, I was a straight A student and I always knew I wanted to be a teacher and I got good grades and I did. No, your story is going to connect with a lot of them because sadly everybody doesn't always have the best socioeconomic situation. Everybody doesn't have the best GPA situation when they're coming to college. But one of the things that they need to learn is that you can turn it around.
Absolutely.
And you can still be successful.
Absolutely. Especially our population, and we've talked about it a lot. We've spoken about, you know, just our peers whom we graduated with who have said things publicly and privately even to us, right? I'm out of Mount Vernon. Like, I'm done. Once I get mine, I'm out of here because it has nothing to offer. But I often got a lot of criticism and critique for coming back. There were a lot of people that were like, yo, like, why are you going back to Thornton? Why are you going back to Mount Vernon? And Mount Vernon, I mean, it being just a special specimen in its own right, Mount Vernon, outside of what it had to offer in the past, still is almost like a crucible of art and culture and just vibrancy. And we're seeing some of that resurgence now with our new mayor and with the new administration and our new superintendent who has launched the STEAM Academy, which is one of the leading institutions in the state in terms of STEAM excellence, in terms of academics. We also have our performance art school. So we're seeing some of a resurgence, and we hear a lot about, don't try to connect with me now that I'm on the top because you weren't there when I was on the bottom. And I fear that will be a case for some of the people that were peers of ours where it was like, oh yeah, I'm claiming Mount Vernon now. I'm from Mount Vernon. But before, you were excited about ditching it and leaving it and seeing no value or worth in its potential. But I'm all for potential. I am a product of potential. When I was counted out by schools and colleges, there was a program that said, you know what, you don't deserve to, but we're going to give you a second chance for you to redeem yourself and turn it around. And I think that's what we all possess inside of us. It's the ability to have potential and the ability to spark.
Nice. So when you were in college, because it's very easy to fall into the trap of, oh, I've spent my whole life there. Why do I need to go back there? What was your motivation to say, I'm going to go back to Mount Vernon and I'm going to try to be the change that I want to see?
I think one of the leading motivations, there were a lot, but one of the leading motivations to returning back to Mount Vernon was the fact that I wanted to be what I never had. So it was the absence.
A black male teacher.
A black male teacher. Like literally, that's funny as you say that. 2 days ago, one of my students they were testifying in class, and they were like, we were talking about culture, we were talking about race and class division and how it impacts a community from literature and from a text. And she just, I'm sorry I have to say this, but Mr. Middleton was my first black teacher, and like I was stunned. I was like, are you kidding me? Like in a city like Mount Vernon, it's almost kind of ironic for someone to even say that, who's been a product of the district their entire life. But to say Mr. Middleton is my first black teacher, that helps me to remember that I have purpose, that there was something in that young lady for her to say, this is something that I need to notice. This is something that I need to take note of. This is something I need to appreciate in front of me. And also inspire her to say, listen, if this is someone in this context whom I've never seen and it was a rarity for me, what can I do? How can I be that for someone else? And I think sometimes the absence of something can teach us more lessons than if we had those things. Sometimes in void, we learn better lessons than if we possessed what was voided there.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a book I read. It's called The Talent Code, and it talks about if there's a certain type of exclusivity to something, it kind of propels the learning, because the people who are a part of that exclusivity just feel that, wow, look at what I'm a part of. And I'm paraphrasing, but there was a music program, and it was put in two schools. It was put in a lower income school, and I think they were saying like 60 kids out of the whole school could be a part of it. And then it was put in an upper class school, and the whole school got to be a part of it. The lower income school, even with their lower test grades and everything, because there were only 60 students that were able to be a part of it, there was so much excitement in those 60 students to know that they were chosen, that they propelled in every music sense of that. The upper school, they were kind of just average. They kind of didn't work as hard, because it was just like, oh, everybody has it. Like, so just like what you're saying about that void of something, and feeling like, oh wow, now I had something that I've been missing. Let me appreciate it, and then once I appreciate it, I'm able to excel even further.
Absolutely.
Even further. So we know you're an educator. You're an author. You wrote your book. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Absolutely. The book is titled Crooked Legs, How Grace Saved Mephibosheth. So really long name, really odd name, especially in our culture. But Mephibosheth is a character who I parallel my life with, and he's a biblical character who I parallel my life with alongside his. And the premise and the argument of my book is that we all have crooked legs. We're all broken. We all have things that prevent us from walking forward into God's preferred future for our lives and God's preferred best for our lives. And the book deals with it. The book deals with those places that we don't want to enter. It starts off with the empty room experience. There are things that we can't even believe that we've done. And there are things that we wouldn't even share with ourselves in an empty room. And if we were to sit in a room by ourselves and said, I did blank, we would feel out of touch and out of our skin and a little uncomfortable. And so the book deals with the uncomfortability of our human nature, and how we can actually move forward with God's help to live in the life that he wants us to live. So actually the book is a double entendre. It's Crooked Legs, How Grace Saved Mephibosheth, but it's How Grace Saved Me, taking the first two letters of Mephibosheth, M-E, me, and capitalizing them and raising them up. And God wants to deal with me and deal with you and deal with us together.
Yeah, no, I remember I read that book in one night. I read that book in one night, one sitting, and it was just amazing to read that book, because there were parts of the book, you told your story, but there were also parts of the book where you gave the reader the opportunity to sit down and actually reflect on themselves and be like, listen, be in that empty room, talk to yourself. What are those things that you're not proud of that you've done, but you've grown through, and how do you grow through that and just become the person that you're meant to be? And I really think that book was definitely,
thanks, bro,
definitely something very inspirational. If you haven't read it, definitely send a link in Amazon for that, guys. You guys definitely need to read that book, because the most important thing it deals with is you, and or me, as you put in it.
Absolutely.
As you put in it, and that was really amazing. So, what made you decide to sit down and write that book? And like you said, people won't. There are things people won't come to terms with in an empty room. You wrote a book and published it for people to read. So what was that?
I had just been in a very, very dark place in my life. There was something that I recently had done that I just couldn't believe. And my pastor at the time, I was in his office just broken and crying. And I shared it with him, and he breathed into me life again, and just said, are you kidding me? Like, the very message we stand on is the message of grace, the message of God's grace, that despite us, God still desires us and still wants us and still calls us. And it was in that office that I felt broken. I felt like I didn't have a future. I felt like I couldn't move forward because of what I had done. And the next morning I was ironing my clothes and I heard the words in my ear, crooked legs. I heard it. And I said, I need to write this book. Someone out there is going through, many people out there are going through what I've just gone through and what I'm encountering right now. And perhaps God allowed me to go through it so that I could encourage someone else to get through it. Nice. And so that was it. I said I had to do it. I had to put in that hard work. I had to put in the research. I had to hire/ask my editor, aka my wife, to edit my book and to proofread it and to ghostwrite it for me. And I didn't have the necessary resources. I felt ill-equipped. But I said, if God gave me the vision and if He gave me the dream, then the resources are here. The resources are there for me, and they were there, and I did it. Went out on faith and did it. And listen, I, to my shame, don't want to say this, but our population, our demographic, they don't like to read. And so my thing, sadly, and my thing was, man, if I write this book, who's going to read it? But I had to come to terms with myself, and even with that, and say, even if it's just one person that I can help with this book, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth all the copies. It'll be worth the hard work. And yeah.
Nice. Nice. So I know that religion is a big thing in your life. Big thing in your life. Where did that come from? Because our people don't like to read, and a lot of our, especially young males, don't like to go to church. Sad to say. And I might be guilty of that. But I'm getting better. I watch my Transformation Church every Sunday. Come on. I watch my boy Michael Todd. I watch him every Sunday. But where did that drive and that passion stem from you? Because we went to high school together, and you weren't super religious when you were in high school. Right. So I remember, because I've always said, like, I've always looked up to you, even though you're a year younger than me. I always say I've always looked up to you because of your growth and progression as a human being overall. And so where did that transformation or that shift come from?
Actually, so I did grow up in church, and a lot of people assume that I was just this hyper Christian my entire life, blah, 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 blah. Actually, like, was a declared atheist at 14 and 15. I'm like, age group. Yeah, like I was like, I don't like speaking in tongues. That's stupid. They're pushing over chairs. Pastor just wants the money. Y'all ain't really changed. And on top of that, in school, I was learning about evolution in my biology class, living environment. I was learning about Charles Darwin and his theory of evolution. And on top of that, I was getting into National Geographic and History Channel. And I'm like, listen, if I can't see it and I can't explain it, I want facts. I want tangible things in my hand. However, there was this thing that wouldn't let me rest. I'm a huge skeptic, but at the same time, I'm also a huge thinker, right? So I'm always thinking. My brain is always on the run, right? And I'm like, nah, there's no God. But I'm like, but what if there is? But what if there is? And I'm like, nah, I gotta figure this out, right? Because if God is this big, He should be able to tell me, yo, let me know. And I was on a search, a spiritual search. I was looking into different religions. My aunt, long story short, who's a pastor, invited me one night to her youth revival or youth service at her church. And I was like, nah, I'm not going. I want to update my MySpace page. I need to make sure my top 10 followers are in place and my background is fire. You know what I'm saying? With the music in the corner. But something told me, go. Like, literally, go. I put on my clothes. I said, yo, auntie, I want to go. I went, literally, everything that I was struggling with, dealing with, all the questions that I had, it was almost like the preacher young lady, young woman. It's almost like God was speaking to me, literally. Like, literally, I almost didn't see her. It was almost like I just heard a voice, and everything that came out her mouth was every question, every thought, everything that I was dealing with in school, with my sexuality, with my identity, with my purpose. Everything was like, and I'm like, she's like, yo, does anyone want to give their life to Christ? I literally don't even know how I got out my seat. I was in the front, and he came to me that night, and undoubtedly, I knew that it was him. And ever since then, I've been on this journey.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. And I know another thing that you're big on is family. And like I said, you're an anomaly to a lot of the stereotypes that are portrayed out there as a black man. Like you're married. You got married and you have a child and you're actively in your child's life. So what is that life like? That whole marriage, family life.
I am grateful. I'm grateful because I didn't have to be in the position that I am. Every day I'm grateful. I could literally tear up right now because the opportunity to pour into young people all day, that's great. The opportunity to have a career that I'm in, that's fantastic. But a family is something that you can't buy, and something that you really shouldn't sell. You can sell it to your career and to things that you find more important. But my family is a non-negotiable. It's not on the table for anything. And I love my wife. It's true. The Bible says that, a wife is a gift from the Lord. And so my wife is like my partner. She is my friend. Most importantly, she's my friend, my confidant. She literally is my backbone. And she literally assuages my fear. She gives me, she's like, if I had a plan, she's the strategy. She mobilizes and she just takes literally whatever I give her, like it's true. Those corny Facebook posts you see, give a woman something, she'll just multiply it. It's really true. And she's just dynamic. My son, I'm really honored. I'm really honored to be in his life. I'm really honored. I was just telling a friend of mine that my son has his own room, right? And the fact that I can give him his own room is a really big deal for me, because it wasn't until I moved out of my grandmother's house that I had my own room. Like, it wasn't until I got my own place that I had my own room, because my family wasn't the most fortunate in terms of finances and money, and I had to share a room my entire life. And the fact that I can walk in my son's room and he's just a baby, and I can lay him in his crib and say, this is your room. Like, this is your room. Pointing to the stuff. This is yours. This is yours. This is yours. It's like, wow. I'm grateful that I can give and that I can leave a legacy, and even if it's through the children at school, but also just a legacy in terms of being responsible for raising another man, is just powerful to me. I'm kind of speechless, actually.
Is it true what they say about that whole different type of love than you've ever felt in your life?
Oh yeah. He's literally like my heart outside of my body. Like, literally, I would die for my wife and I would die for my son. Like, I would literally, I would probably second guess dying for a couple of friends. Yeah. But my wife and my son, I would literally take bullets for them. And that's a big idea. That's a big deal.
That is.
Yeah.
So what are your plans for the future? Like, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years, or where do you hope to go in the next 10 years?
I hope to be teaching in university still. As you mentioned, adjunct professor at Mercy College. I hope to be teaching in universities. I hope to, of course, and I shared this with you, I have aspirations within the next few years to plant a church or start a church of my own. So that should be pretty exciting. I hope to be pouring into young people. I hope to write more literature and more books. I hope to be wealthy in the next few years. Wealthy not for the purpose of just being for the sake of being wealthy and having money, but so that I can help others and really be able to give to others and really serve my community and really be more of a presence in people's lives and just give more of myself. I have some big dreams, and it's going to take some hard work, but these are my resourceful years. And so I figured I get everything done while I'm young so that I can chill when I'm older.
That's what's up.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Middleton, I know you got to run, brother. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for being the person that you are. Thank you for being a part of the community and just like really overall changing the dynamic and changing the narrative of the black man, especially being a teacher in high school with young black men coming up and letting them see that there is the right way, there is another way than what they've been told or what they've expected. If you don't think so, I'll tell you, it makes a huge difference.
Thank you, bro.
It makes a
Thank
huge
you, bro.
difference.
I appreciate that. Appreciate you.
Thank you for being here.